You thought giving her more attention would make her love you, but that's the very reason she's slipping away. The more you chase, the more she doubts you, not because you're weak, but because every attempt to prove your worth silently screams that you don't believe you already have it. You've felt this before, haven't you? The silence after your texts, the emptiness after trying too hard, the way she pulls away even as you give everything. Late at night, you wonder if you're simply not enough. If this sounds like you, it's because you've been carrying a weight no one sees, the fear of being invisible to the one you want most. But what if the answer isn't chasing at all? What if ignoring her is the very thing that makes her finally notice you? Most men get this wrong because they think attention equals affection. They believe if they give more, prove more, chase harder, she'll finally see their worth. But the truth is the opposite. The more you overextend, the less she respects you. Women don't fall for effort, they fall for presence. And presence isn't built through chasing, it's built through restraint. A man grounded in himself doesn't need to prove his value, he simply lives it. That's the first masculine principle most men never learn: self-control. The second is self-respect. When you ignore her, it's not about games. It's about showing you are not defined by her validation. You're telling the world, and yourself, that you are enough without needing to beg for attention. That calm strength is what makes her lean in. That's what flips the balance, and that's the psychology most men miss. You're sitting in your room, phone in your hand, staring at the screen. Her name sits there, glowing, waiting. You type a message, then erase it, type again, erase again. The silence on her end feels heavier than any words you could send. Your mind races. If I just say the right thing, maybe she'll answer. But the more you try, the emptier it feels. You remember the last time you called, how her voice was flat, distant, like she was already somewhere else, and yet you kept talking, filling the silence with words she didn't even want to hear. Then comes the moment you stop. No text, no call, just silence. And strangely, it feels powerful. For the first time, you feel her absence instead of chasing it. You realize the quiet isn't weakness, it's strength. And in that silence, something inside you shifts. One of the biggest lies men believe is that effort always equals love. You think the more you call, text, or show up, the more she'll value you. But here's the truth. Chasing doesn't make her want you. It makes her wonder why you need her so badly. Real attraction grows in space, not in suffocation. Another false belief is that ignoring her means you're playing games or being cruel. No, ignoring her, when done from strength, is about reclaiming your center. It's about showing her you are not desperate for her validation. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself the moment you lose your self-respect. She feels it before you even notice. And the third lie, that losing her attention means you've lost your chance. The opposite is true. A man who can walk away with calm certainty is the one she can't forget. The silence of a strong man is louder than the noise of a desperate one. You're not here to prove your worth, you're here to remember it. And once you do, her response stops being the measure of your value. It becomes the reflection of your strength. The 1% headman doesn't chase, not because he doesn't care, but because he knows his value doesn't depend on anyone else's attention. This is what he understands. When a man is centered, he attracts without effort. He doesn't try to pull her closer. He lets his gravity do the work. Most men beg for validation, but the headman carries his own. He knows that presence is louder than pressure. This is how he leads, by standing firm in who he is, not bending into what someone else wants him to be. He isn't playing games when he ignores her. He's honoring his own standards, his own time, his own peace. And because he can walk away, he's the one she leans toward. She feels his restraint, his calm, his certainty. The headman doesn't prove himself with noise. He proves himself with silence that speaks volumes. It always starts the same way, with silence that feels unbearable. You stare at the phone, waiting for her reply, waiting for her voice, waiting for anything that proves you still matter. Every second stretches like an eternity. Every unread message feels like a knife. You tell yourself she's busy, you tell yourself she'll come around, but deep down you feel the truth. You're not being seen. And yet something inside you begins to stir. At first it feels like anger. Anger at her for not caring. anger at yourself for caring too much. But as the anger fades, something deeper rises. A question: why am I giving someone else this much power over me? You remember who you were before her, the man who laughed without checking his phone, the man who dreamed without asking for permission, the man who didn't measure his worth by whether someone else stayed or walked away. That man is still here, buried under the noise of chasing, buried under the fear of losing. And in this silence, you finally hear him again. You realize ignoring her isn't about punishing her. It's about choosing yourself. It's about stepping out of the cage you built with your own hands, a cage made of endless effort and unspoken desperation. You see it clearly now. Every time you chased, you weren't just chasing her. You were running away from yourself. And when you stop, when you let the silence breathe, a shift happens. The world doesn't end. The loneliness doesn't kill you. In fact, for the first time, you feel free. You start to notice the weight lifting. The heaviness in your chest loosens, your mind clears. You're no longer waiting for a reply that may never come. You're no longer bending your life around someone else's indifference. This is the turning point. You understand now that power doesn't come from being needed. Power comes from knowing you don't need. The man who ignores is not cold. He is whole. He walks away, not to prove a point, but because he has already proven it to himself. You've carried the pain of being overlooked, the frustration of giving everything and receiving nothing. But here, in this quiet awakening, you realize it wasn't her attention you were starving for, it was your own. And when you finally give it back to yourself, everything changes. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to try harder. You don't need to chase. You simply need to remember. The man who stands tall in his silence, the man who doesn't fold under rejection, the man who knows his worth whether she sees it or not, that man is unforgettable. And in this moment, as you let the phone rest, as you breathe deeper than you have in weeks, you realize something you'll never unsee. Ignoring her wasn't about her at all. It was about you, finally refusing to ignore yourself. You began this journey thinking attention was the answer. You believed if you just gave more, tried harder, proved yourself enough, she would finally see you. But the silence taught you a harder truth. The more you chased her, the further you drifted from yourself. And that was the wound you never admitted. It wasn't her ignoring you that hurt the most. It was you ignoring the man you were meant to be. Ignoring her was never about cruelty. It was never about games. It was about choosing presence over pressure, self-respect over desperation, and truth over illusion. It was about remembering that a man's value isn't measured by who stays, but by how deeply he stands in himself when others walk away. And now you see it clearly. The power was never in her replies, her attention, or her affection. The power was in your silence, your restraint, your ability to walk away without losing yourself. Because in the end, the secret psychology of ignoring a girl isn't about making her want you. It's about finally becoming the man you were always searching for in her eyes. The man who no longer chases is the man who is never forgotten.